Okay, I'm back, and the goal now is to show you a little bit indirect. So basically, what I have here is I have a half of a takedown issue stick that's 1 inch thick Delrin, and I've got a 1/4 inch piece of copper in there, a copper rod that I bought from a copper supply place, and it's theoretically hardened copper rod. I tend to file my stuff instead of hammering it, simply because taking the stuff out and hammering it and putting it back is tedious. You'll see 4 holes in here. You know, when the holes on the screws strip out, I just drill through the other side and reinstall the screws and go. But basically, I don't think this is necessarily the best way to do indirect, but it's just what I started doing, and so I got used to it, so whatever. The master of copper indirect, as far as I'm concerned, is Jason Newman now. And he's using a thicker copper rod, and he's actually tapering it and doing different things with it. But I haven't seen anybody that can end up making the thing dance and do magic as well as he can. So, but I just do what I do. So anyway, I stick it under my leg there, and I try and lock it in pretty good with my leg so it doesn't slide backwards, because if it does, you lose pressure. I got some deer skin I fold up and I put underneath my platform. So like right here, I've got a little ridge. I've got a semblance of a platform that nobody would normally hit, and they would normally isolate that and do all kind of stuff, and it's not beveled exactly right. Doesn't matter. With indirect, it's so powerful that it kind of makes its own way. So hopefully you can see that. I don't even really know how to describe the difference, other than if you've never done it, it seems kind of magical. Okay, here I've got a really long ridge that goes to a center hump. Hopefully you can see that long ridge here going to a center hump, and I've got sort of a platform there. I'm just going to try and shoot one way into there. I could never do this with direct percussion. There's just no way, and especially without any preparation. So hopefully, can you see that? Nod your heads if you can see it. Okay, watch. There you go. Hopefully you can see it ran all the way down, and it did lower and flatten that hump, at least where it ran to. So that's just the beauty of indirect. You know, you can come in at an angle. If you try and do an angle like that with direct, a lot of time you're going to do a radial fracture and just cut the thing in half. But you can come in at an angle like that, and I ran that thing, you know, 2 inches or whatever down there. So anyway, and now I'm just going to try and attack it from the side on a platform that isn't really even a platform. I'm showing you all the wrong ways to do this. Look at this crap. Okay, it's almost at the center line. It's rounded. It's not isolated. It's nothing. But what you want to bet that I can do some good with it. So there's the flake, and it ran through the hump. So now I'm going to come to this one that's even worse. This one's kind of chewed up, but it creates a ridge right along next to it, and that's the rest of that little hump. And so I'm just going to hit it just like it is. Say hope for the best. Well, that was kind of a misstrike on my part. I struck down a little bit. I still did some good, but I didn't get it to run quite as far as I wanted. And this really isn't what you ought to be doing anyway. I'm just trying to make a point here, but no pun intended. What I really should do is just come and bevel this down and go ahead and lose a little more width. There's no point in going long range to attack a problem when you can just wait till you're closer to it and attack it. But I'm just goofing around and making a point. Here is another thing that's kind of interesting. Right here I've got a little semblance of a platform, and it comes up, and then it's got a low area, and then it comes up again, and any direct percussion on that would probably end up with a hinge right in the middle. But we'll see what an indirect hit on it will do. I'm holding this tight against my leg, tight in the back of my hand, tight with my leg, so it doesn't go anywhere, and I'm hitting it as close to the preform as I can without hitting the preform. So what you can see is it didn't hinge out in the middle, and the reason is the power just goes, you know. It didn't climb and keep going over, and that would have been asking too much of it or expecting too much of it. And you can say, oh, well, I created an issue there. Well, not really, because I still have, you know, a 1/2 inch thick preform or whatever here. So I've got to get rid of a bunch of this junk anyway. So just kind of goofing around, showing you what Indirect can do. There's a little ugly knob there and a little ridge there. I think I'll attack it, try and blow it off. It's gone. I hope this is not being all fuzzy when I'm sticking it close to the camera like that. I just thought of that. I think I'll just do another little one right beside that one. And I've got a little ridge there, and this is real typical, you know, when you take flakes and you create a ridge, a lot of times the little delta, it has a concavity. It's down too low and it's got a cavity. So you have to raise it first and then go back the other way and get your bevel right on it. Otherwise, it's gonna, and see now that little concavity is gone. So now I'm gonna shoot one right across in there, and I bet dollars to donuts that it's gonna run at least over there and feather out. I don't know if you can see, but it ran across. It thinned, but it ran across. I don't actually know where it went to. I think it may have gone to right there. Okay, do another one or two, and then I may just go back to my direct and try and get rid of some of this stuff along the sides and get more of a traditional looking preform thing going. That ran past the center line well. That one ran past the center line. Here's one right up here that's kind of a funky thing. That one didn't go at all because it's thick. Still didn't go at all. By the time it went, it ran into here, took some of that problem area out. What else do I have I can hit before I try and work on the edges some? I don't know if you can see, but that ran all the way down and did some good. That one really ran a long ways. It feathered right there. Here's a little cortex-y area with something that's a semblance of a platform, but not really. But it's way below the center line, so I'm going a little more downward angle on it. I don't really think it's a great idea, but I keep the end of my punch kind of rounded. And it's not because that's the best contact configuration to get good flakes, but it's because it's the easiest for me to figure the angles when I'm looking at it. It's like I'm shooting pool, and I figure out, see what I do when I want to change the angle on this. I don't know if you can tell it, but if I want to shoot one all the way across at a real flat angle, I'm pulling up on this preform a little bit, and when I want it a little less angle, I just keep it flat, but I actually have it slightly upward when I want to run a long flake. Like I hold it right there, and I don't know where that flake actually ran to, but it was almost an overshot. It came to right here. And I can actually change the how far the flake runs by at least half by simply holding it tighter or looser also. But see, this is what's left of that big fat amoeba. So anyway, I need to do some work on the edges. I need to turn the edges and knock some of this crap off and do that sort of stuff. So I'm going to put down the indirect for a minute, and I'm going to step down to a smaller solid billet, solid head billet, and just use that to do some stuff here. I tend to hold my finger out under the edge, support it, and I hit down, but the fact that I'm hitting down, since I'm holding my finger out under it, it isn't the same angle that you would expect, and it makes really clean terminations. I'm not doing a whole bunch of micro steps underneath it. Of course, when you go straight down without supporting it, it's not going to do any steps under it anyway. Kind of hold that one. Just trying to clean this stuff up and start making something that's a little more familiar with what most people are used to seeing. But still not really what most people would make. Here again, I'm hitting on the end, and I've got it. I've got contact with the back edge all the way along my hand. I've got contact with the back edge out here, 3 places here, and up by it here, and the whole thing there, and then right underneath it here. And the whole thing is to not end snap it. Because what I have some thickness right here. And actually what I'm going to do is, I'm going to say, hey, be conservative here and don't take the risk. Grab your pad, grab your ishii. Bang. And pop it off that way, and then you don't risk in snapping it. What I'm trying to do is create a little, I've got a little ridge right here in thickness, and I shouldn't have left it this long anyway because I'm not following my own rules, but I want that gone, and it's Cortex, and it's a problem because, you know, it's flaky because it's Cortex. You don't know what it's going to do. So one way to attack that is with the ishii, but with the ishii I don't know how much of that I'll get gone. So, grab the indirect, see what happens. So I cut off, I couldn't go at the right angle because I should have trimmed the side better, but I got quite a bit of it. There's 2 hits on it. So there's 3 hits on it. Anyway, so I'll do this other side. Again, I'm holding it all the way along. I'm pinching it up at the front end. I've got my finger all the way at the back end. I've got my finger underneath where I'm hitting. And of course, I'm hitting carefully. And I use whichever finger to support it works based on where it is. And I'm just about gone with the Cortex now. Yay! I'm not very organized. I guess that's one of my worst things. Okay, so is that starting to look a little bit more like the crap you're used to seeing? I mean, instead of the crap I'm used to making? Getting a little better. I use abraders a lot when I ought to use a billet simply because of the indirect. I would not be doing this if I was trying to set up crap to hit with a bopper. And I shudder to even post this kind of crap because I know that somewhere just southwest of St. Louis, Missouri, when I post me doing this kind of thing, then somebody is having a conniption fit. And I feel bad to have disappointed him, but what are you gonna do? Okay, the problem is when I do elbow stuff, I mean, you know, my arm and shoulder just about fall off. I had to go to the doctor on Saturday one time because of that. Uh-oh, time to stop. I'll be right back.